Harpslingers, welcome to the Harpslinger podcast, where each and every week we hang out with the greatest harmonica players in the music business. If you're watching this on the Honer Music Facebook page, there's a share button right at the bottom of the live stream chat. Go ahead and push that. Share that to your own profile. Help us spread the word. And if you're watching this on the Harpslinger YouTube page, there's a subscribe button and a little bell. Hit the subscribe button, ding the bell. That way we can keep you up to breast with all of the great new content that's coming up over the weeks. We got a great slate of artists that are coming up and a great back catalog of great artists as well. So make sure you go there and check that out. All right, y'all, you're in for a good one today. That is for sure. My next guest is an award-winning vocalist, harp player, and songwriter. The man NPR calls an icon with a huge voice. He's known not only for his powerhouse live performances, but also for his passionate and insightful original songs. I'm excited, y'all. Here he is, Curtis Salgado. How you feeling, Curtis?
I'm doing good. I'm in Portland, Oregon. And you are in?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. Right on, right on. Well, thank you for being on the Harpslinger podcast. We're thrilled to have you on the show. I'm a fan. I love your harp playing, and I also love your vocals, and I want to talk about both of those things today, all in addition to songwriting and all kinds of great stuff. But I really want to know about your start, maybe with your early days and how you came to find music, how music found you. Maybe that's even a better way to put it.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me. This is a first for me that a harmonica person has stepped out and
Really?
actually, I'm pretty low key with it,
Yeah.
But, I am honored to be here, and very much so. And I have a lot of friends in Nashville. So to answer your question, I was raised in Eugene, Oregon, which is a logging town / university, the University of Oregon, the Mighty Ducks.
Mm-hmm.
And so small town. But my folks, I lived in the same house my whole life, and my folks were hip. They were jazz enthusiasts. And then I have an older brother, older sister. And so I'm the baby, but in between this generation where my mother and father come from, and then my older brother and sister, I'm in the middle of it, getting both sides of their musical tastes.
Nice.
And my folks were very open-minded, and it was the arts, and basically my mother would point out, for instance, an actor on television, and she'd go, that's Laurence Olivier, that is Leslie Howard. She'd name off the great English Shakespearean actors that are in modern contemporary movies of the time and stuff. And, I just fell in love with storyline and movies and this. And then my father, he had a lot of swing records and piano records. And so I'll put it this way. In the 6th grade, I just thought of this the other day. I remembered it. In the 6th grade, I did a book report to the class. You got to do this report. You have to do this. If you don't, you fail the 6th grade or something.
Right.
So I brought and did the history of jazz, and I brought my father's records, which was Bix Beiderbecke, Louis Armstrong, Henry Red Allen, Fletcher Henderson, the great arranger. No, Fletcher Henderson did all the stuff for Benny Goodman, and
Okay.
and I brought live at Carnegie Hall 1938 concert and stuff, and my dad was really into Count Basie and this and that, so I went to New Orleans, to Kansas City, and I got an A and I passed, but that's who I was. It's just it fascinated me. All the other little things like math and, it's history. I was terrible at,
Right.
I can read, but I can't spell, that kind of thing. So, but man, I was just lucky. And then my brother, he'd bring home Jazz at Massey Hall with Charlie Parker and, Charlie Parker and Dizzy and Max Roach and Bud Powell, Charlie Mingus. And that was the first bebop record I heard. My father would listen to Count Basie. He was the type of person who'd reach over and go, shh, listen to how Basie uses space. And I remember sitting there he's to my left. I could still picture it in my head. He's listening to Count Basie. And, he uses, he'll do little flourish or something, and then kind of a space and da da, you know, but you know, just real simple spacey stuff. And it didn't catch on until years later, but I knew what he was saying.
Yeah.
And we read the liner notes, and my father said, "Look underneath the song, and you can see who wrote what." You know.
Nice.
So let's move to my brother and sister. My brother brings home Paul Butterfield, and this is a common story with us harp nerds, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Everybody's got this one. So Paul Butterfield, the first record, I'm staring at it, going, "Who are these guys?" You know. And it was just, you know, Sam Lay's, I think, no, Elvin Bishop's got a toothpick in his mouth, and Sam Lay is wearing spray painted gold shoes or something, you know. Just, I didn't even know what funk was, but this was funky, you know.
Yeah.
And the record was great. And some people might argue. I remember thinking that one of the guitar players wasn't quite bending the strings up in pitch enough, and it was, you know. So, but you look underneath the songs, and it says W. Jacob, M. Morganfield.
Right.
Who's M. Morganfield? Who's W. Jacob?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, my sister would bring me home one day. I was about 15 at this time. So if that gives you an idea of how I got launched, I mean, it's just in there. And that's what my wheelhouse was. It always has been.
That's incredible. It's like you grew up in a library of, or, you know, somewhere with, you know, well, with a bunch of audio files, clearly.
Yeah. Wow. I'm going to steal that, actually. I'm going to use that for the next interview.
It's
I
true,
grew up in a bunch of audio files.
Yeah.
Perfect. You just nailed it. So my sister brought me home a record called "Hate to See You Go" by Little Walter.
Yeah.
It was Little Walter had died in 1968, so it's about 1970, I would say 69, 70. She brought me home this. I got it for Christmas, and I put that on, and I didn't even know what was happening. Some I could get is like, you know, at this point, I should go back a little bit if you don't mind.
Sure.
I got really sick in school with mononucleosis. And that took me out of school. And my dad brought me home a guitar and an amplifier, a Fender Mustang and a little Fender Princeton. And I wanted to be a drummer, but my brother was already getting into the drums. So my mother played wicked piano. She was a good stride. She could play stride piano.
Nice.
You'll see it. So I'll get back to the harp here and in the harmonica. And so I took guitar, and I had a mean guitar teacher. He was a jazz player in Eugene, Oregon. His name was Gary Beck. And I have no problem throwing him under the bus. Unfortunately, his brother's really nice, but Gary would kick me if I didn't get it right. You know, so I'm trying to finger the guitar, and he'd go, and he'd kick me in the shin.
Oh.
Watch, you know. Damn it. Like this. Look, did you just kick me? I'm thinking, you know. And he'd do this when I'd go to, you know, my lessons. So I reported this to my parents. And my mother, this again, I can still picture, she goes, "Curtis, I got you something." And she put down this book called How to Play Blues Harmonica by Tony Little Son Glover.
Okay.
And the pictures in it were great, but it was wrong. You know, that probably ruined more harmonica players out there. Like, you know, it's because my ear was, that's not what's on here. And I got all screwed up with dominant and subdominant. I didn't understand what this, you know, tonic and this and that.
Sure.
Man, you know, I remember getting so frustrated. I threw the harmonica against, like this, you know, just kept at it and listening to basically other records that were coming. Of course, Charlie Musselwhite, Junior Wells. My sister had Hoodoo Man Blues was coming out, and it got to the point where I'm putting a quarter on the record needle.
Yeah.
You know, so it wouldn't. I'm one of those, and I'm sure this isn't a unique story, but that's where I was, man, just playing and playing. Charlie Musselwhite copied him as much. and then advanced towards Little Walter. And meanwhile, around that time, 16, 17, a guy who was playing, I was starting to play with other bands, and a guy named Johnny Butler, who is now a superb jazz guitarist. He goes, Curtis, have you ever heard of Toots Thielman? I said, no. And he goes, you know, and he brought me a George Shearing and Toots Thielman. Okay. And I don't know if you harp players out there have heard this, but he does Body and Soul. If you haven't heard it, play it. If you have, play it again, because it is remarkable. And I was like, I had no idea that a harmonica could do this.
Right.
Which led me into other things. And then you find the harmonic hats and stuff.
Sure.
Toots Thielman was a whole other thing. And then you find the other jazz players, you know, Larry Adler, da-da-da-da-da. So I know my harmonica. But back to my mother, she brought me home this book. And the book was wrong. And I just stayed at it and just stayed at it. And the guitar went away. And I started collecting and started really honing in. As far as singing is concerned, I was on stage. When I was in kindergarten, the teacher pinned a note to my chest and said, get this to your mother and don't lose this. And she's pinning it, you know. So I go home and my mother reaches in and goes, what's this? And she goes, oh, Mrs. McGilvery says you have a nice voice and you're to learn these songs. Jesus Loves Me, Yes, I Know, and I've been working on the railroad. And so I can't even connect the dots. Even, you know, back then it's like you do what you're told, you know.
Yeah, right.
So I learned the songs. My mother went to work immediately. She plays piano, right? So we practiced the song and practiced it every day until the time of the performance was at a church in the auditorium. And another little boy was to sing with me. And we're going to sing this song together. And so we stand up there, and the place is full of the parents and the relatives. It's packed, you know, auditorium full of everybody's parents and relatives and teachers and whatnots. And that's the first time I've ever been in front of an audience. And I'm not registering anything. It's just like, so we start singing, and the other little boy next to me froze, just froze, solid. Frankenstein, like this. And so I'm going like, I've been working on the railroad. Then I would elbow him, all like join in, you know, like this. And I kept elbowing him through both songs. And of course, the audience thought it was adorable and gave me a stand, you know. He didn't sing, so, I mean, it was for yours truly. And I was hooked. Hooked. And from there on out, you know, it isn't because of that, but I was selected out to do little solo pieces. Zoom ahead for that. In high school, I'm doing Glee Club. We're going to nursing homes and malls that are being invented at this time, you know.
Right.
And, you know, playing nursing home and malls and opening up hotels and this and that and playing various little functions and stuff. We were called the Top Notchers. And Mark Rice was the piano player. He was this 18-year-old. I mean, he could play, and we were playing blues. And by then, now I'm like 17 years old. So the Top Notchers would do their cool harmony songs to whatever was out there, and then all of a sudden we'd start playing a boogie woogie or whatever, and we did a couple of blues songs. So we were a high school sensation, you know.
Yeah.
And so that pretty much encompasses me, basically. And then I'm on my way, you know.
Right.
And my folks, I hope I don't talk too much, but my folks were, when I got out of high school, they said, we know what you're good. I took acting. I wanted to be an actor in high school.
Okay.
But I didn't want to audition for a part. I just figured I could do anything, and which is stupid. But it's music. And so they had some money from my grandfather. He had left money for the kids, but by the time 1972 came around, the money that he had left would have probably bought one semester of books. and they said, here's this money, you have to spend it on music, whatever it is. And so I bought an amp, and I took vocal lessons and continued working with vocals and absorbing everything. That's just it. And then when I was 18, I was playing in a bar, and it was called the Roman Forum, which was kind of a biker hangout. So, boom, I'm right in the middle of, basically it should have had chicken wire because some of us got clobbered a few times, you know.
Yeah.
So that's about it, man. And then I was on my way, and it's been downhill ever since.
I love it. I love it. Man, your background and my background, we have a lot in common with the way we came up, how we started singing, how we started playing music. I started incorporating the harmonica into my glee club. Well, it wasn't called a glee club then; it was called the show choir, but it was a glee club, and trying to incorporate that. And so that's really interesting to hear that was your path as well. So,
that's what it's about. That's what music is about. I mean, any of this stuff is like, oh, you're into this too. It's nice to find out you're not crazy,
right?
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. We're not the only.
I'm not surprised. I mean, if there's other harmonica players watching this or people they have the same story, unless that's pretty much it.
A lot of similarities, actually. As I interview different harmonica players each week, there are certain things that stand out to me each time about how they came about their harmonica. I'll hear a lot of stories about an older brother or sister turning them on to some great blues records.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I think I love your sister. I mean, she has great taste.
She did. She
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing that they were feeding you with this sort of incredible music from such an early start. And you also mentioned Count Basie, and I would be remiss if I didn't say I love Count Basie. But how about Count Basie with Sinatra at the Sands, Quincy Jones?
Oh man! And have you heard the other Count Basie because there's two of those. One's Count Basie at the Sands, the show before Sinatra came out. They recorded that and released that too.
Oh, I haven't heard that. That's
And Eddie Lockjaw Davis is the star of the show.
Okay. I got to check it out. Is it still in print? I guess I can hear it on Spotify, maybe.
You could find it. I'm pretty sure of it.
Sure, I can. Well, okay. At what point, Curtis, did you decide you were going? I knew music was going to be your path, but you said you were thinking about acting. I guess that because you're also singing, I would assume that's musical theater. You love the harmonica. You love all of this stuff. How did you narrow this down to? I'm going to start. I'm presuming a blues band. Is that how you started? With a blues band?
Yeah, as I said, when I was out of high school, and I took vocal lessons from a teacher who was just a really nice housewife teacher, but she was like, I got a lot of training in high school as well, but we just continued it, and we do little what they call standard pieces like Night and Day, Night and Day, you are the one. They do the intro, the original, da-da-da-da-da. So what happened, let's see, where was I going here?
I was working toward the Nightcats.
Yeah, okay, so.
Oh, the Nighthawks, I'm sorry, the Nighthawks.
So the same guy that turned me on to Toots Thielman said there's these guys and they're auditioning people. And I went in, this band was calling themselves Three Finger Jack. Okay. And Three Finger Jack was made up of no keys, but violin, guitar, and bass, drums, and myself. And the star of the show was a guy who is now the head of the string department at Berklee School of Music.
Okay.
And his name is Rob Thomas. We're still friends, but Rob was a prodigy. Could play anything with strings well and sight read. Excellent. And here I am blowing harp and singing. And I'm really into history, so I still am. I'm excited about, So, like anybody, who's, if you're into cars, what year and whatever, the statistics, if you're into, so I know a lot of statistics about music. And so I auditioned for this band called Three Finger Jack, and I got the audition. And we did everything. So there's a violin player, and I love this band. It was the Mothers of Invention, and Frank Zappa.
Uh-huh.
And me, I mean, I started listening to "We're Only in It for the Money" and the very first one, "Freak Out" and stuff. I had that record, and somehow I acquired it. But I was 13, 14 years old at the time, and brown shoes don't make it. She was only 13 and she knows how to nasty, all these kind of songs were hilarious, but it had all these orchestrated parts and stuff and different time signatures. I mean, I get it, I understand it, but now I understand it more. He's doing a cynical, view on, that's Zappa. Anyhow, so we would do King Kong by Frank Zappa. Sorry. We do like King Kong by Frank Zappa, and then Muddy Waters or Johnny Young.
Wow.
Johnny Young with James Cotton, Keep on Drinking. Have you ever heard that? It's
I
on
don't
the
think I know that.
Man.
No.
God, this James Cotton at his best with Johnny Young, who's a mandolin player.
Okay.
Otis Spann. It's basically Muddy Waters band with Johnny Young singing.
Okay.
You got to find this. So it's a classic. It truly is. So we would do Johnny Young, Keep on Drinking, Frank Zappa, King Kong, turn around and do Little Feat, and turn around and play Chameleon by, try to figure out the head to Chameleon by Herbie Hancock, So it was all over the map.
Yeah.
And I got this audition, and we played in this bar. And that band, Three Finger Jam, eventually, musicians that either in it to win it or they drift off, and some drifted off, whatever. But the nucleus of the band stayed, and we had ourselves called Harold and the Nighthawks. And Harold, this is important, was Harold Persing, and he was from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is a huge blues town.
Okay.
And he made me aware of Short Stuff.
Okay.
And Short Stuff was like the band, and it had the harmonica player in it. And right now his name escapes me. I can't think of his name right now, and I should, because he's wonderful.
Short Stuff. I got to look that up.
Yeah, Short Stuff. Jimmy Mabin. Yeah, Jimmy Mabin or something like that's his name. And he was like, the white harmonica player that was, he could circle breathe back then.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I mean, he played Sonny Boy, and it'd be a great Sonny Boy or Little Walter or this and that.
Sure.
Jimmy, I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, but that's his name. Anyhow, Harold is the bass player. And Harold was an intellectual and a killer player, could sight read, played great. And he was with Short Stuff for a moment, and he brought another friend named Ken Arnaldi. And we kind of morphed in with Harold. So we called ourselves Harold and the Nighthawks. And the Nighthawks, of course, that name, not to be confused with the guys from Washington, D.C., but the guys in Washington, D.C., they had their hustle more than us boys up in the Northwest, where cowboys and Indians are still,
Yeah.
In Washington, D.C., on the East Coast, they had their hustle together. And they actually took ownership of the name, the Nighthawks. They got a patent for it.
Okay.
But there are so many bands called Nighthawks, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the band itself, before they turned into the band, was called,
Ronnie Hawkins and the Hawks or
Ronnie
something.
Hawkins
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
Hawks.
Yeah.
Then there's Robert Nighthawk, the great.
Sure. Right.
He's one of my. So you could find that name, many bands called the Night. Well, we were one of them, and we were popular. So Harold turned into Harold and the Nighthawks.
Okay.
And then Harold turned communist. And I'd show up at a bar. We'd show up to do a gig, and he's like putting pamphlets out on every table. and soon he disappeared. And I just spoke to Harold about 2 months ago, and he's a beautiful kid. He turned out to be he's a physicist. And he just retired. So anyhow, so Harold left, and we just became the Nighthawks.
Okay.
And a killer band. And we played pretty much R&B, blues R&B. The Frank Zappa left, the Herbie Hancock kind of left. We got a piano player who was really into the jazz and stuff, and I got him into the blues. And at first he wasn't interested, and then he saw Lafayette Leak in person, who was playing. And we're still in high school. The Chicago All Stars came through with Willie Dixon, Lafayette Leak, Clifton James. Wow. Willie Dixon, Clifton James, Lafayette Leak, Buster Benton on guitar, and Carrie Bell on harmonica.
Yeah.
And that was the first real deal Chicago blues band I'd ever seen. And this was at a place called the University. What was it called? The Forum. I can't remember. I'm forgetting the name. It doesn't matter. But it's on campus.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, there's a famous scene in Animal House in that. So nonetheless, man, it was just so greasy and just so, right. I mean, swung and lazy and just, it was just so cool. I've never seen anything like it since, really.
Wow.
I mean, these guys
they could playing
that. Willie Dixon was just, God, it was insane. Yeah. And Lafayette Leak, is on all that. A lot of that Sonny Boy Williamson stuff, chess recordings. Otis Spann is, and so is Lafayette Leak, and also with Magic Sam. Something to see something like that to me.
I feel like Carrie Bell is sometimes overlooked as what a great harmonica player.
And he was too.
Yeah,
he was. Yeah, he was. He blew through like a PA system, and I was sitting there going, "Is that Little Walter's PA?"
Right.
It's gotta be,
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Rumor had it that Little Walter blew through a PA, but he had 2 stereo speakers and whatever, and he kind of also he did little voice effects as well, But man, Carrie Bell's tasty.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. So it's you sort of started to lead us into a direction that I want to go with your mention of Animal House, and I wanted to talk about Robert Cray, because Robert Cray played bass in the band in the movie, right? But you and Robert are friends, and you toured with Robert. But early on, you guys were like joining forces, right? Your band and his band were doing some touring together, and
yeah.
How did that all come?
Let me clear that up for you. The bass, for instance, just so you know, that isn't them. Robert is Robert is playing Richard Cousins as bass.
Okay.
And so we'll get to that.
Okay.
Because I was at that time living with Richard Cousins. We had a bachelor pad, and we didn't have a television. Secondly, all musicians work on Saturday. That's payday, man. Saturday night is payday for me. I never saw Saturday Night Live, and it took me years to, I wouldn't see it even during the creation of my hanging out with John Belushi for a while, because I work on Saturday night.
Yeah, totally. You're doing a gig.
And we didn't own a television set. We owned a stereo. Richard had his collection, and I had mine, and Richard Cousins, by the way, is one of the finest bass players on the planet. And
played with Robert, right? You played with Robert.
Yeah, he's with Robert. Mm-hmm. And so how I came to be is, remember, the Nighthawks were popular in Eugene, and one of the guys who was one of the members of Three Finger Jack. Eugene is a small town, and there's a couple of camps of bands. There's musicians all over the place. But in our circle and stuff, Randy Reese was his name. We called him Ratso. And Ratso comes over and goes, "Hey, Curtis, man, there's a couple of black guys in town that are really into the blues. Man, they play the blues." And I remember Randy and I are walking, and I go, "Really?" And to me, it was like 2 young black guys into the blues, from the black community. I mean, because basically the black community in Eugene, Oregon is small. And secondly, nobody's listening to Little Walter and Muddy Waters in the black community. They're listening to Marvin Gaye and James Brown, Shout It Loud. I mean, so am I. We're all into that stuff.
Yeah.
But they're moving ahead. They're leaving the parents behind, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But man, you know, which I always thought was strange. It's like
Yeah, I agree.
great music. It's like, you know.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
you know what? If you're black, I get it, you
Hmm.
know, and I'm not. So, you know, I can't, you know,
Agreed.
they're coming, you know, so, you know, I can't experience their experience.
Right.
But I can certainly, I get it. Music is colorblind in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, you like it or you
You
don't.
don't. Right.
Two kind, good or bad. And this is good, and I don't care what color they are. It's good, you
That's
know.
right.
So, moving on. So he goes, yeah, there's these two guys. So I go meet him and stuff. And Richard and Robert have found a couple of girlfriends. And Richard and Robert are from Tacoma, Washington. That's 3 hours north, or 5 hours north of Eugene. Portland is 3 hours away. Eugene is 2 hours from me, south of me.
Okay.
So it's 5 hours away. And somehow they found Eugene, Oregon. I remember Richard saying that they were smoking weed in the car and they were pulled over by the police, and the police didn't bug them and didn't, you know, a couple of black guys in a car and they can smell weed. He didn't do anything. You know, he
Yeah.
gave them a warning ticket and they went, maybe we should stay here.
Yeah. Hey, all right. Yeah. I can see
So,
that. Yeah.
and Eugene, Oregon, the campus of Eugene, you know, Eugene is where Ken Kesey lives, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the famous author. It's
Sure.
where electric acid Kool-Aid test, the Grateful Dead, it's like one of the first hippie fairs, if not the first, is out of Eugene,
Wow.
you know, and it was just kind of progressive, liberal place. And I remember Richard and I used to say, if you can't get laid in Eugene, you can't get laid. That was true.
I love Eugene. I've never been there, and I love it.
So, you know, college town.
Sure.
So I meet these guys, and Richard comes, and Randy goes, "You guys want to jam?" Robert wasn't interested in jamming. He's too busy watching a television show, and said, "Nah, he doesn't feel like it." Of course, Richard goes, "Yeah, I'll jam." And so we go over to this house, Randy's house, and Randy was a sax player, but he plays a little drums, and he sits down behind his brother's drum set, and we're in this room, and I'm blowing harp, Richard's playing bass, Randy's playing drums, and we do a shuffle, and I sing probably a Junior Wells song or something, and Richard's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and at the end of the tune or two, we're going like, "Wow, man, who are you?" And I go, "You sound like Jerry Jamont." And he goes, "Jerry Jamont's my man." And I don't know if you people out there know who Jerry Jamont is, but he's on a lot of. That's the bass player who's on "The Thrill Is Gone."
Okay.
Yeah, that's who's on Memphis Soul Stew with King Curtis.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Okay.
that's Donny Hathaway, Roberta Flack.
Yeah.
Aretha's, you know, Aretha Now with her second record on Atlantic. That's all him. Freddie King on the Cotillion record, My Feeling for the Blues, you know, that's Jerry Jamont.
Okay.
Really, so one of the great session guys and players of all time, who now lives in LA and is on my record, this latest record.
Nice. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like going in the
Yeah, it's
studio. You know.
crazy how that stuff comes around. That's
It is. It's nuts. I'm very excited about that. Anyhow, back to this. So Richard and I look at each other and go, "Who are you?" Next thing I know, they're coming over and listening to my record collection. And, you know, they're going, "You have this and we have this." And I go, "You guys, you know, like this?" And it's like, yeah. And then I'm 19 years old. I'm not old enough to go to other bars. I could play in this bar because, according to the law, the Liquor Commission of Oregon, if I stay on stage, but if when I get off stage, I have to go into the kitchen. None of that happened, of course. So if a agent came, you know, was like, "You go disappear here," kind of a
right.
thing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I can't go into any other bars other than the one I work in. That's what I'm saying. And I heard, you know, one of the musicians from the Nighthawks called me up and says, "Man, I saw those guys last night, Robert and Richard, the Robert Cray band, and he goes, Robert, this guy is off the chart. And I'll tell you about Robert right now. Nothing's changed. He sang as good as then as he does now. He was fully realized.
Wow.
You know, I mean, I could tell you stories. I remember we're doing a rehearsal a few years later on, and the piano player is very accomplished, and he starts playing a Thelonious Monk. I think it's Well You Needn't. And you know, these kind of you know, Robert just picked it up, man.
Wow.
You know, and he is remarkable. He's a natural. And so when I finally saw him, and I was like 20 at the time, it's like, and Richard's drummer's name was Tom Murphy. It was just, they had another harp player who should be mentioned. His name was Rocky Mazanares.
Okay.
His mother sent him from the Bronx
Okay.
to Eugene, Oregon, to get him away from the drug scene.
Uh-huh.
And Rocky was hilarious. Rocky Mazanares. He kind of sounded like Paul Butterfield. He was pretty good.
Nice.
Rocky, he bounced out somehow, and I don't think he's alive anymore. But meanwhile, my band, the Nighthawks, so we're playing together, and I move in with Richard, and in the process of moving in with Richard, we're all becoming friends and hanging in this circle. Nighthawk band members, the Cray band, the people that we meet who are fans and stuff, and some bars, we were popular enough to have some sort of power, and you know, one of the bars was Murphy's and Me, and the guy didn't want to hire Richard and Robert. This is one of my first introductions to racism, because they thought they were going to bring in, the guys was, well, they'll bring in underage white girls. We're in a college town. Doesn't matter. I mean, there's a bunch of underage white girls in there. You know, they got fake ID. What do you know?
Yeah.
But he just made up excuses, and we said, either you hire Robert, or we're not going to play. You know.
Yeah.
And we were drawing there. We were the biggest band in Eugene, other than this other band that we competed with, as far as how much you're drawing in and how much is made and the cash register kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we played those kind of games. So anyhow, we're close. And as this is happening, I have to tell you this because you're leading. There is a cast of characters is Robert, myself, Richard Cousins, the Nighthawks, and Robert's band. But the main cast of characters, so that I don't get lost here, is the Eugene Hotel and the lounge and the ballroom of this hotel. Well, we put our collective minds together and said, let's do a show. We did this a bunch of times, but let's do a show at the ballroom, and it'll be the Nighthawks and the Robert Cray band.
Yeah.
And we called it Double Trouble, Triple Threat. You know? And what we were going to do is Robert would open, the Nighthawks would play, and then both bands would get together and do an R&B show and play songs we rehearsed that neither of the bands normally play.
Nice.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
We're going to do it on a Friday and a Saturday. Put that aside. Over here is the lounge of the Eugene Hotel, and it's called something like the King Cole Room or something. And we played there on Monday nights, but it would be Richard and Robert and my drummer from the Nighthawks and myself, and then we'd either pluck Robert's keyboard player or the Nighthawks keyboard player. We came up with the gig, and so basically it was the four of us, Robert Cray, Richard Cousins, David Olson, and myself. And we'd play on Monday nights. And, you know, to share the money, let's hire Dover Weinberg, who's with Robert now, and let's hire D.K. Stewart, who's a great piano player from the Nighthawks. So we kind of kept the money flowing, you know.
Yeah.
No jealousies, nothing. Oh, you guys are working, but we're not, that kind of thing.
Right, right.
So keep that in mind. This is what happened. We're doing Double Trouble, Triple Threat at the ballroom. And this cocaine dealer comes up. and starts yanking on my pant leg. He goes, "Hey, Bellucci wants to meet you." What? And check this out, James. You've done. I'm in the middle of a song.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah.
I don't know why people think they go, "Hey, you
It's
know,
baffling, isn't it? It's
yeah,
it's baffling. It's
what do you
like
think I'm
I'm
doing?"
working here. Hey.
Yeah, I'm working here. So I ignored him, and he goes, "Hey, Bellucci wants to meet you." I have no idea what he's saying. It sounded like he sneezed or something. It's like, "Bellucci wants to meet you." What? I go, "What?" And, I told him to off,
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
away. I said that to him several times, and I didn't understand what he was saying. So I ignored him. He's a cocaine dealer, and he's only about 5'2", and Richard Cousins is, so we called this guy Little Dick because his name was Richard as well. I
Okay.
just have to say. So it's like Little Dick, buzz off, go away. So at the end of the set, I jump off the stage and I'm heading towards some friends, girls, and I'm going over there. And he grabs my left arm and spins me around and goes, "Bellucci," and like that. And I'm looking at this guy who's about 5'7", and he's about 5 feet wide.
Yeah.
And and he comes up and he says, "I really like your band, man. I like what you're doing. I have a friend who plays harmonica as well." And I thought, who gives a shit? Every hippie in town plays harmonica. And I'm telling you, if you don't sing like Sam Cooke or play like Little Walter, I don't really care. And I'm just thinking, oh, great, another harmonica player, just what the world needs. And he goes, "No, his name is Dan Aykroyd. You kind of look like him." And if I was to show you a picture, I can kind of see where, I had brown hair, da, da,
Yeah. Yeah. All
and,
right.
and, uh, and I play harmonica. And she goes, "Yeah, his name is Dan Aykroyd." I think now that basically he's testing me like, I don't know who he is, and he's picking up on that. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, great. When I shook his hand, I was like, "Yeah, hello."
Right.
I'm going that way.
Yeah.
I had no idea who he was. And I'm everybody is kissing this guy's butt, and
Hmm.
I don't care. And I'm not even paying attention. And then he says, "Yeah, I'm with this movie in town." My first words were, "Oh, Robert's in that movie. Did you see Robert today?" And he goes, "Yeah, I saw him today. He taught us how to dance." Because we do, and I laughed and I thought, yeah, we dance because we do one of those little, kick, 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 turn,
Yeah.
turn, turn, kick, like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Three of us would get going and do one of
Sure.
these,
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of like, Sly and the
Definitely.
Family Stone thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I go, yeah, oh, we kind of chat for a second, and it's kind of conversation's dwindling. And he goes, "I'm with this variety show in New York. It's really hard." And he explains that he has to fly from New York, the East Coast, all the way to Portland, Oregon, the West Coast, and then drive 2 hours down here for this movie he's doing. He doesn't tell me the name of the movie. We don't even talk about it. He's just telling me about himself.
Yeah.
And I've told this story since the day it happened, so nothing has changed. And I go, "Oh, yeah, I have to go down here. Man, it's hard. But then I have to go back this Sunday." This was a Saturday night. He goes, "Tomorrow I got to go back. But man, I'm really excited about it because we're going to have Ray Charles." And I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, we're going to do a show with Ray Charles." "You're going to do a show with Ray Charles?" Now I'm going, who is this guy?
Yeah. Right.
So what do you mean? Yeah, yeah. And then he starts to pull away, like he's got me, right.
Right.
I
Right.
go, wait, you're doing a show with Ray Charles? And my first thought was, you got to ask him about Guitar Slim. And he goes, "Who's Guitar Slim?" I'm like, "You don't know who Guitar Slim is?" I'm getting all excited. Oh my God, Guitar Slim, see, 1953, the things I used to do, man. He runs the session. Have you ever heard the things annoying? You've never heard of that? Ask him if he'll play saxophone. He plays saxophone. He goes, "He plays saxophone?" I go, "Yeah." And then I told him, what is it? I said, "Yeah, Hot Rod, Atlantic Records, 1958, live at Newport Jazz. You can hear
And
Ray
play
Charles
sax.
play saxophone."
Yeah.
And he's really good. He goes, "Let's go smoke a joint." So we're in a hotel, and we go up, and a room magically appears. I don't know if you already had one or they probably bought a suite before they came, because this movie is in town.
Yeah.
Movie is creating a lot of stir in town. A lot of those people in the movie are kids and extras from the campus, you know.
Wow.
So, and to me, it's all whirling around my head. I have no idea, you know.
Yeah,
I'm in Curtis world, you know.
for sure.
I'm not really, I'm not really pertaining to it. So we go up and we smoke a joint, and we exchange numbers, I think. But this somehow he found out where I was, and he calls me up and says, Curtis, and this is before cell phones. He figures out Richard Cousins and I's phone number, and somebody told him, and he called me up and said, "Come over. Judy, my wife, is cooking dinner. Would you like to join us for dinner and bring your records?"
Nice.
So, and then look, James, I can go on and on and on and on and on. There's a bunch of actually now because it's so iconic, great stories, you know.
Yeah. That
But I would like to tell you a blues story.
Yeah, any story you have, I'd love to hear.
So, and I don't tell this a lot. I've only told it a handful of times. So, we are playing in the King Cole room in the lounge,
Uh-huh.
and Bellucci's there. The whole town is buzzing. So on Monday nights when we play there, the Crayhawks, right?
Yeah, nice.
Well, I mean, some nights is, you know, a third full. Some nights it's happening. It's Monday, right? First day of work for people.
Yeah, yeah.
When the movie was being made, the place was packed for, you know, for 5 weeks, you know, every Monday, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going, what is going on? You know, well, it's because the movie's in town and Bellucci's coming down to see us.
Yeah.
And I still not making a connection, right? But I mean, but this will happen. So at the end of one of the nights, and Judy Jacklin and actors from the movie and Bellucci's there, and it's a crowd and everybody, you know, and you know, we are the band and we're killer, we're good.
Yeah.
And I step off stage and he goes, Bellucci goes, I want to sit in. Can I jam with you guys? I go, my first thing is like, oh God. And I go, sure. I mean, well, what do you want to do? And he says, Jailhouse Rock. And my first, I went like, like, no, man, that's too corny. We're not going to do Jailhouse Rock. He was going, and then he says, oh, Johnny Be Good. And I said, nah, everybody and their dog does Johnny Be Good. You know, everybody does Johnny. We're not going to do it, either one of those. So I said, I'll bring you a song. And I brought him a song, and it was Hey Bartender. And I knew
Up on the record.
Yeah, yeah. So he put it on. So there's 5 songs on that record that he saw us do, and he called me up. I gave him the bit about you're going to make like a camel and walk a mile, or make like Chesterfield and satisfy. It depends on what you're packing, regular or king size. And so he whipped out his Jim Beam, and it was as hard as a Canadian club. And I gave her a shot of cream of Kentucky, which created the Wilkerson family. So I put that in the song, I Don't Know. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh my, that one, right?
Yeah.
So that was my bit of business that I stole from a black comedy record of Skillet and Leroy.
Okay.
I stuck it into the rap.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard I Don't Know by Willie Maben or Clifton? You know,
I may have, but it's not ringing a bell
right.
at the moment.
You know, getting sick and tired of the way you do. Good time, Papa gonna poison you. Sprinkle goofer dust all around your bed. Wake up one of these mornings, find your own self dead. She said you shouldn't say that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I whipped out my Jim Beam, and it was as hard as so. That's it. So I'll get to that. So anyhow, I want to jam, he says. I said, okay, I'll bring you a song. So I went over and I brought him. I'm playing him records and showing him who's who and what's what. And this guy's important because of this. And Magic Sam is, this is West Side, you know, West Side is different than the South Side, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, and
Wow.
he, next following Monday, he goes, I learned the song. I said, okay. So I'll tell you what, we'll do the first set here, and then at the very last song, we'll bring you up. He goes, okay. So we do the set, and the very last song, I said, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to get guest artist up here, if you don't mind. His name is John Bellucci. The audience just goes, I'm going like, what the fuck?
I love it.
You know, I mean, I'm getting mad, kind of like, well, who is this guy? I still don't know who he is. And he gets up, and we're looking at each other, and this is a stop time blues, and so went balling the other night, but got jumped, and he's going like this,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at him, and the audience is going nuts. They're going ape, and I'm going, this sucks, you know. And I'm looking at him, and as the song continues, I'm going, no, I'm going, is that Joe Cocker? You know, I mean, because it looks and sounds just like Joe Cocker. I mean, he nails it. And I didn't, so how could I miss, right? I'm thinking, is this, I'm blowing harp. This means I'm blowing harp. Is that Joe Cocker, right? And it was, the song ends, and I'm peeved, you know. I'm kind of like, well, just because of pride, and hey, how come you don't love us like you love him? You know, all the things that musicians go through. Right? So I jump off the stage, and I'm just kind of forlorn. And he goes, hey, what'd you think? What'd you think? I go, was that Joe Cocker? He goes, yeah, I do an imitation of him in that variety show I was telling you about. And I just look at him and I go, so let me get this straight. You're John Belushi, you're singing a song by Floyd Dixon, and you're singing it like Joe Cocker. And this is the only directions I really gave other than teaching him who's who and what's what.
Yeah.
I just turned around, I tapped his chest. I went like this, you know. I go, you got to come from here. You got to be yourself if you're going to do this. You got to be yourself. Come from here. And this is what he did. He just goes, yeah, you're right. And that was it.
Wow.
Now I'm gonna, you know, I was his muse, and he would call me up. What do you think of this? I knew the Blues Brothers the band was being formed before anybody else. When I think about it, he called me up and says, "I got this guy and this guy. I've got Steve Cropper and Donald Duck Dunn. I've got, you know, what is it?
Matt Guitar Murphy.
Guitar Murphy's on there. Matt Guitar Murphy's, whatever, this and that. I was just like, he called me up. He found out where I was, and we were on the road in California. And out of the blue, Robert goes, Curtis, Belushi's on the phone. And I had been drinking all night, and I was like laid out, still in my clothes from the night before, face down in the back of the van, you know, like this, you know, bang, 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 get up, you know. So to go back, there's a story behind this, Joe Cocker and stuff. So he goes, yeah, you're right. So just to let you know, I could go on, because we were friends up to his passing, you know, and we'd still be friends today. And I'm still friends with his wife, Judy Jacqueline, and I just saw her a year ago, and before COVID, she was here in Portland. She has a sister here.
Okay.
So that's his wife, you know. She lives in Martha's Vineyard, I do believe.
Still at
and I met also, to get on back, years later, after the whole Blues Brothers thing, they dedicate the record to me. Keb Calloway plays Curtis, you know,
right.
Yeah. I am a part. Some people say, you're the Blues Brothers. No, man, this is all Dan Aykroyd. It was Aykroyd's idea. And Belushi wasn't coming on board. He was listening to AC/DC and Blue Oyster Cult and stuff like that. That's what he was into.
Yeah.
And whatever he was into. And when he saw me, it was something he could hang his hat on. And
like
so
an actor would, right? Like an actor would.
So basically, I was a muse. If you're an actor, you know, a method actor or whatever.
Sure.
So he's, you know, and he liked what I did. He loved what I did, and I am honored. And I am part of something that blew up, but I am not the creator. The Blues Brothers are one and only, and that is John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, they were wonderful.
And for me, it's like I'm part of the story. So just to make that
really interesting, how how you played a part in that, as you know, turning him on to it's fascinating, really. Yeah. Did you get a chance to play harp with?
I've got other, man. I mean, I won't go for it. I have a blues story for you still.
Okay.
Well, this is why I just wanted. I'm moving ahead so you get the punchline or.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for me, one of the best things that happened for me, out of this, all of it is great. Talking about it is great. But one of the high moments was I was at the Chicago Blues Festival in the 1990s, and a girl came up to me who was one of the backstage managers and says, Floyd Dixon wants to talk to you. I'm like, Floyd Dixon's here? Wow, yeah, well, come. You know. So we go to the main stage, and Floyd Dixon goes, Curtis, if it wasn't for you, I made more money in my entire lifetime on the royalty checks, and I want to thank you for turning them on to. He knew, because we used to play together, Floyd and I.
Wow.
I mean, we did shows together. He lives in Oakland, and he lives in L.A., and his office in Oakland is like, come on, you know, Curtis, you ever come to visit me in my own. His office is a bar, you know, his office was a bar, and his payphone was his office.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
And he had a cardboard box with 45s, you know.
Wow.
And in the cardboard box was Freight Twist, which has Johnny Guitar Watson on it.
Okay.
And so I went in to visit him. I was down there and said, I mean, this guy was eccentric, but he was a genius. And this guy, I mean, I know his history. He's been recording since 1948. He made 78. And he's telling me that because of me, I made him the biggest paycheck he ever got in royalties. I mean, in my head, I was just like, that. I can die now.
Yeah, right. That's wild, right?
Boom, you know.
Yeah.
And how nice is that? I mean, if I was wealthy, beggars would riot. And it was just like, this guy deserves it. So my point is, I go, well, thank you so much, man. It choked me up. And I go, what, if you don't mind me asking, what'd you do with the money? And I thought he'd say, well, I bought a little cottage on the beach in Santa Cruz or something like that. You know, how much did you make? I said, and he goes, 78. The first royalty check was for $73,000 or $78,000 because the record went gold.
Sure. It was,
like double platinum.
Isn't it like the biggest selling blues record of all time?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so.
I think
so he goes, I made 70. I just like, wow. So I go, if you don't mind me asking again, what'd you do with it? And he took off his glasses and he looks off into the horizon and he says, oh, I spent it all on the horses. I had a wonderful time.
That's a blues guy.
That's a blues guy.
That's a blues guy. I love it.
Yeah, I spent it all on the horses. I had a wonderful time, you know. Well, okay, you know, I would have invested, I think, but you know.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah. I mean, this is a man who put a voodoo curse on the Canadian border because he didn't like the money because it looked funny. You know?
Oh, I've never heard that. That's fantastic too. Right on.
Yeah, right. So,
Man, you've moved in so many incredible circles. You know, with all of these blues guys, John Belushi, Robert Cray, Santana. You had a stint with Santana as well.
Yeah. That wasn't my wheelhouse, and I was lucky to get it, and it taught me a lot. But I didn't belong there. You know,
I've had gigs like that.
It was hard. You know, and I'm not going to badmouth anybody, but.
Right.
It just, I felt like I should have a banana boat on my, you know, I should have been Carmen Miranda, you know, with puffy sleeves. And, you know, I'm not
You're a good mover, though.
Yeah, I'm a good mover, you know, too much cowbell. It wasn't, no, I didn't speak Spanish and I had to sing. That was a tough gig. It's good on my resume.
Yeah.
And,
sure.
But I didn't belong there, you know. I wasn't having fun.
I hear you. And then when you're not having fun, it's time to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So
how about Room Full of Blues? You know, I had a stint as a DJ in New York City, and I used to play these swing parties where these swing dancers would fill these weird rooms all over New York City, and occasionally I'd get the call to DJ those. And man, I wore out the Room Full of Blues stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. They loved it. Absolutely. They can move to that, man. It was great.
My experience with Roomful was wonderful. First of all, I couldn't keep up with them. And as far as drinking was concerned, and I'm from Oregon, and they're on the East Coast, and I had to catch up quick. And I'm not talking about booze, just in terms of mindset. You know, you're, you know, Boston, Providence, Rhode Island, New York City.
Yeah.
When we played in New York City, one of the places we played was called the Lingerie Club,
Okay.
which sounds interesting.
Yeah.
And wow, so we go there, and all the women are dressed in lingerie, and fine models, this and that, just like this. Where are we?
Yeah.
And but we weren't the band; we were the break music. The band at the time was disco.
Oh,
And
okay.
so they came out and filled the dance floor, and they're doing the Bee Gees or something like
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then the dance floor evaporates, and we get up on stage and we do our Big Joe Turner, Johnny Guitar Watson,
Yeah.
Ronnie Earl on guitar, Ron Levy. I mean, we were crushing as a big. I mean, we did a lot of stuff, rock and roll, a little bit of soul, and a lot of jump and swing. And those guys used to open up for Count Basie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so big band blues,
Mm-hmm.
and killer. But everybody, the floor is empty.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we get through playing, the floor filled back up.
It's just the worst. It's
Yeah,
the
it
worst.
was.
Yeah.
It was the worst.
Well. Well.
Okay, can't wait for these guys to go.
Yeah. Let me go to the bathroom. Yeah.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. And then, of course, if you're young and you're looking out and here's these finely, scantily clad women who don't want anything to do with you and can't wait for you to get off, then
Yeah.
it's kind of that added to it.
Yeah. It's
I
the
hate to
worst.
sound like a dirty old man, but
No.
I
No.
am a red-blooded American guy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well,
And you
this
were
is no fun.
right. Exactly.
There's no chit-chatting or communication at all. It's just like
Yeah.
we were like the plague or something.
I love it. Well, hey, man, I want to talk about a little bit, if you don't mind, about your songwriting. For one, there's a few things more that I want to talk about for sure that we haven't even gotten to, and one of them being your new record, because it's a great record, and you've been through, all of this. All of these interesting musical stories, and you've shared some of them with us today. It's really fascinating to see how far you've spread and how many different people you've played with, and you've had a really incredible career. But you also had some hardships in the 2000s with some health issues that could have been a major setback for most people. But it seems like you came out the other side stronger. Maybe. I mean, your songwriting, for one, I'm a fan of your songwriting. I think you're a great
Oh
songwriter.
man, that's so nice of you. Thank you.
And
I
this
mean,
record in particular feels like it's very introspective, it's very much who I would imagine you are, you know?
right.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying, I mean, this is the only hustle I know how to do is this. And I'm really I want to know what makes things tick.
Mm-hmm.
And since this is how I pay for the roof and to fill my fridge and
Mm-hmm.
to cover my whatever bills, this is it. So when you're telling me that, it's really nice and it uplifts me because I don't think like that. Like, really? I've had an interesting career. I like talking about it, but I think everybody has an interesting career. You met somebody and really, what's he like, or what happened, or you did what? I love that. I'm in the moment. You know what? And it's very nice to hear that you think that. So that said, it is this record. I got another Richard Cousins story. This will help you. I told you my folks were into the arts and stuff. I want to know what makes things work. So the crafting of songwriting, you start to learn that, what? If you are an interpreter of songs like Frank Sinatra is, or like somebody like Linda Ronstadt is an interpreter, they don't write their own songs, maybe one or two. Elvis Presley didn't write any of his songs, but he was an interpreter of songs or was handed a song. As a matter of fact, when Elvis was handed a song, the colonel said, you realize you're going to have to give Elvis a chunk of the change because Elvis is going to make you money, so we want this much percentage,
Yeah.
And I saw an interview with Jerry Reed who said, he wrote Guitar Man. And he goes, really? Well, leave me out. Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Elvis called him, said, "I want to do the song. Give him the money. Who cares?" You know. So,
Yeah.
so anyhow, people, you write songs. It's kind of what in this business, but not even just for yourself. It's something that you have to have your own voice.
Mhm.
And the critics can be harsh and go, "Well, this is the same thing." It's like everything is the same omelet scrambled differently. Everything's already been done. There is, there's no stealing of music. It's professionals steal, amateurs copy. But it's basically, Prince takes from James Brown and Sly Stone, but he's got his own twist, his own instrumentation. So he's brilliant.
Yeah.
And he's making, he's doing songs and doing things that they hadn't done before. But still, the core of it is funk and blues and rock and roll and this and this and this and classical. It's all out there. So that's what it is. Songwriting, James, is basically, for me, it's by hook or by crook. And who serves the song? I'm really good at like putting it together. And I want to tell a story that's like a mini movie. Well, I didn't know any of this stuff I'm telling that you now at this moment. But back in the 1980s, Robert Cray was the big thing going on. And I had my own band at this time, solo at this point. And we called ourselves the Stilettos, which
All right.
sounds like West Side Story. I can't stand it now. But then I thought it was cool. I don't know. So anyhow, we're opening up. We're doing a show. Kenny G is the headliner. Robert Cray is up. And I'm the opening act. We came out and we slugged it out. Robert came out and did his thing and knocked it down. I mean, it's wow, And then Kenny G does his. Well, I'm poking fun at Richard, and I'm going, I'll never forget this. Richard doesn't remember it, but I'm poking fun. I'm going, we kind of kicked your ass today. And he goes, "Yeah, Curtis, you guys were throwing it, man. You guys were throwing bricks. But, basically, we did a 90-minute set with only one cover song. You didn't have one original tune." And I was like, he slapped me. Boom. And he didn't say it mean. He's like, but he's kind of, I know what he's just like, you need, I took it like, we're writing our own shit. You are not.
That's right.
And I've already written at that time 2 songs, like, this one called Up and Jumpin' Time and Boppin' That Lovin' Stuff or something like that. And blues, kind of a mojo blues, and the other one is a shuffle. Like
Great titles, by the way.
Yeah. So, it got me going. When Richard did that, it was just like, okay, yeah, you're right. And then you learn because you got to have your own voice. If you write, it's something that they write about. It's something that if you're not doing your own stuff, then so my record started to appear with 4, 5, 6 originals and then covers that there's so many songs out there that I love. But you gotta, it's about, plus you get paid,
Right.
If you do a whole record of somebody else's songs,
They
you
get
gotta
paid.
pay money for their publishing.
Yeah.
So it helps on many different ways. It's like, what is so it's advantageous. I just learned that word a few minutes ago. It's advantageous to write your own music.
Yeah.
And I really started, remember I said, if you Bob Dylan, he didn't sing like Sam Cooke and he didn't play harmonica like Little Walter. I didn't want anything to do with it. I was like, oh, that's cool. I thought Subterranean Homesick Blues is pretty neat, which, could be considered one of the first rap tunes, who knows.
Right.
But it's like, get sick, get well, hang around, you look out, kid, or something you did. All the stuff. Great song. My brother had that tune. But I never really paid attention because he played harmonica and it didn't sound like Little Walter, and his voice wasn't a beautiful, silky, smooth thing.
Yeah.
And with singing chops,
Uh-huh.
And then, Bob Dylan, bing, so, oh, I get it. This guy is killing it.
He's a
this
poet,
guy is a word crafter. He's a song crafter.
Yeah.
He knows how to paint a picture, a movie, or whatever. And then I started really paying attention. So that was Richard was the push. I had it in my head, maybe, but when he did that, it was like, yeah, you're right. You
Yeah.
know, you're
Again,
really
I had a similar scenario happen to me where a friend just said, "I just got to be brutally honest, man. You got to write some songs. You know, you have to write."
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it does. That changes everything.
It
Um,
does.
yeah,
Yeah.
it really changes.
I always think, for me, is it's like um, I wrote this song called "The Greatest Wish," which the record company Alligator said you should call it "I Want My Dog to Live Longer"
Great
because
song.
then people will, greatest wish won't, Okay, I agreed to that, but it kind of ruins that's the punchline. The greatest wish I want is I want my dog to.
Yeah.
Nah, yeah. So long story short, see, I want Taj Mahal or Keb Mo to do that. I hear them singing that song. So I
I
wish
mean,
other people would do it, especially if they sold a lot more CDs.
well, if they sell it, sure. Yeah, from the publishing end, I agree. I agree with you. You know, and both of those guys are fantastic singers. But Curtis, let's talk about your vocals for a minute.
Okay.
Wow, holy smokes, man! Like, I want to take, I want to take some singing lessons from you, man. You're one of those guys that you're what we call in Nashville a phone book singer. You know what that is? You can
I
open
can sing the phone book.
You could sing the phone book, yeah, and it's really impressive. And I'm curious how a voice like that, uh, you know, you talk about you have all of these different elements that you're working on. I mean, just a quick rundown, but you have the rasp and the growl and all of this, but you can tell a story. You have that you are also an interpreter of songs, even though when they're your own songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have all of these things going on that, from the audience perspective, it seems effortless, and maybe it is for you, but there's a lot going on there. And I'm curious how you started as a vocalist. Did you always have this voice? Was this when you opened your mouth? Is that what came out, or was this something
Man,
that you worked
are
on?
you I mean, when you open your mouth, what if you're Donny Hathaway or Stevie Wonder? See, I mean, that's the bar right there. Or all these great gospel singers, like Ira Tucker, Paul Owens, Claude Jeter,
Hmm.
or the great shouters, man. Archie Brownlee. Oh my God, that's where Wilson Pickett, they're all doing that,
Uh huh.
squall is what
Yeah.
it's called.
Yeah.
I mean, the great gospel quartets. That's the bomb right there.
That
That
is
is it.
right.
And those people are my biggest hero is a woman named Dorothy Lovecoats.
Okay.
Check out, write this down. That's Enough on Specialty Records.
Okay.
That's Enough is the name of the song on Specialty Records. And you can find it on YouTube. I wish I could go tick, tick, tick. I'd bring it up for you. But I
Yeah.
mean, I have the
Wrote it
record.
down.
I got it in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then another one is called 99 and a half. Wilson Pickett did a song called 99. Well, basically, it's about you can't be just 99.5% into the Lord. You got to be 100%
Uh-huh.
into because He'll pick you up and lift you and whatever. I love gospel music. I'm not so much as I don't know any scripture or anything, but to me, I just take it as it's about love,
Uh-huh.
and it's about love. That's it.
Right on.
And all the politics are thrown in by us as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
I
right.
don't, I think Jesus was probably, I won't go on this, but it's about love. That's
It's
it.
about love.
Enough
That's right.
said.
That's.
So the gospel music that's the mothership of the blues and jazz. And Ray Charles says, I'm called, one of the godfathers of soul, but he goes, all I did was take gospel music and put the word baby in its place. He says that in his book, Brother Ray. So if that's true with him, then that means that Thomas Dorsey is the godfather of soul because he was a blues piano player. He plays on Ma Rainey stuff. He plays with Louis Armstrong. He plays with Tampa Red, the great slide guitar player out of Chicago. He was a blues piano player. And this isn't, people think blues 1-4-5 and you got to be, an alcoholic or something. This is, there's substitution and inversions and stuff in all of this music.
Sure.
And the point I'm saying is that Thomas Dorsey started writing gospel tunes based on his knowledge of blues and jazz. So to me, he's the godfather of soul, you know. He turned it around and turned blues songs into church songs. He wrote Precious Lord, Take My Hand, which is basically a blues song.
Yeah.
So he's a decade before Ray Charles, you know.
The lineage.
Yeah. So back to this singing. Gospel is where you go, and that's where the cutting edge always is, and that's where the black community rules. There, you know, that is where it comes from. Also, there is country and western music. So basically, it's just rural people who are living, you know, down solid people like this, because the Irish are a part of it and the Scottish are a part of it. You got to know your history. So what does this have to do with me singing? Everybody on the other side of the fence sings better than me. It's like I look at people and go, God, I wish I had that voice. I wish I could. So
that's amazing to me. Like, I just have to stop you there. That's just amazing for me to hear that. I always think that when as a singer, I always think everybody sings better than me. But to hear a person that I admire like you say that is sort of eye-opening. It's almost like, oh, we're all human. Okay.
yeah, I'll tell you. Listen to Ray Charles, and Ray Charles has certain things that he does, you know, it's this falsetto, but he's not going like that. He's not singing, he's not doing runs and curls and melismas and stuff. He's, you know, just singing, man, and you just believe it.
Yeah.
And the same thing with you know, the key thing is, James, is singing pitch. Make sure you're in pitch.
Yeah, that's key.
That helps,
Yeah,
because people
for sure.
don't even know what it is. Your basic general people don't know that they're hearing. They'll look at it and go, "Oh, he's a wonderful singer." I'm sitting there going, "He's flat." I know when I'm flat immediately.
Yeah.
But you know, then somebody comes up before this person who sings flat, this note or that note or all the way through. A person comes up and sings it straight down the street. I don't care, but it's in pitch. People go, "Oh, he's better," and they don't even know why. It's because he's in pitch.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, talking is in pitch. So I'm giving you a lesson right now.
Yeah.
When you hear a preacher go, and I want everybody here, how you feeling this evening? And there's a piano playing always in the background. It's kind of feeding the preacher, but he's talking in pitch. Check it out.
Yeah.
So, you know, it says here in the scripture that the Lord will come one day, and one never, ding, 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 and here's the key. And I know just exactly what it is. You all believe in me. So when you all believe in me, he's in pitch, even that. So raise your hand, say amen. It's all in pitch. Just like you hear somebody in one of the old soul songs, "Hi, my name is Bob, and I'm an Aquarian," you know. And yeah, baby, I'm coming to, you know. And then the other guy, "I'm so-and-so, the lead tenor." They're talking in pitch.
Yeah.
It's
Amazing.
It's all, you kind of get a vibe going, and, you know, that's what it's about. It's singing. And the cutting edge is the church. But just, you know, Bob Dylan sings in pitch. I don't know if he does anymore, but that, you know, dance, you know, how many times must a, you know, it's kind of got that time must a man come around before he calls himself a man. It's right in pitch. The answer, my friend, blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind, blowing in the wind. Dun, da, da, dun. He's in.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's not singing flat. He's right in the pocket. That changes everything. So you have a voice, you express yourself with a voice, and then there's do you believe it? Are you trying to be something? And that's what I work on it as the best that I can. I can do runs. I can sing louder than 7 Mardi Gras Indians. I can holler out. But, you know.
Yeah. You have a big voice and a big range. Pretty incredible.
But, you know, it's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. It's incredible. Well, this new record is amazing. And, you know, you wrote 12 out of the 13 songs on it. It's called Damage Control. I've heard you say in other interviews in the past that life is damage control. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah,
is.
it is, and you know a little bit about all of that.
Yeah.
You recorded this record in three cities: Nashville.
Yes.
You went out to what is San Diego with Kit Anderson, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then L.A. with the Phantom Blues Band, which is
Yeah. Yeah. That's Johnny Lee Shell's studio,
okay.
and what is it called? Ultratone or something like that. And Johnny Lee Shell has been with John Fogerty, Bonnie Raitt. She's so Jerry Lee Lewis. Da 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 da. He's like from Texas, and he was with Bonnie Raitt for a long time. But then he kind of like opened up a studio, which is a garage that he's turned into really cool studio. You know, you could go in there and sing, and you don't need headphones. All the
Wow.
instruments and amps are hidden, and the band can sit there and just and hear themselves over speaker. They don't really worry about bleeding of any other,
Wow.
you know. That's so. And then Kevin McKendry is Rockhouse Studio, and Kevin is wickedly talented.
Oh, that's
And
Nashville, right?
that's Nashville, and Kid Anderson is also, you know,
Yeah.
his house is a recording studio.
Okay.
Like, so he took his home, and you go in there, and there's wires everywhere. I mean,
Wow.
I wonder what his wife thinks. But no, she's behind. She sings amazing. She's an incredible singer.
Wow.
And yeah, they live upstairs, and you go into the kitchen, and there's a grand piano. You know, the grand's in there, the
He lives
Hammond's
it.
over here, and stuff. So what I was trying to achieve is like three different rhythm sections. I
Hmm.
took some of the like Jerry Jamont. I took him. Would you like to play? You know, at Kid Anderson's studio, and then he lives in L.A., so I hired him for that. But basically, three different rhythm sections, so that it's not so samey. I thought, you know,
Yeah. Mhm.
not
At the
that you
same
really
time,
hear that.
it's still very seamless, and it doesn't
Yeah,
sound like you recorded it in three different studios in three cities with three different bands.
exactly. Well, you know, modern technology, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's also speaks to you produced this. It speaks to you as a producer and how you're able to. I mean, producer wears a lot of hats. You know.
He does. I
Yeah.
have the final word. I say I want this up or down. However, man, it's the side guys. I mean, you go to Kevin McKendry's studio, and I brought this song called "You're Gonna Miss My Sorry Ass," which
Yeah.
is like
Another great song.
I thought I went out of my way to make a rock and roll tune. You know, I
Yeah.
went out of my way to make a rock and roll album, and that's what I thought. I didn't even know if the record company would accept it. It's just like, you know what? I want to write my kind of rock and roll. Just,
Right.
I love rock and roll. Look, I like everybody from Bootsy to Hank Williams. So
Uh huh.
they're you know,
Right
I
on.
like Rage Against the Machine, and I like Billie Eilish. I think
Yeah.
she's amazing. You know. So
Yeah.
anyhow, so I'm gonna write a rock and roll record, and that's what I did. So let's talk about Nashville. I went to Nashville. Call up Kevin. Say I'd like to do a studio. Work out the money with my manager, what it is, when we could do this, and then I go play gigs.
Uh huh.
You know, I'm saving my money up. My manager knows that by this point I would have done maybe a couple of months' works, and here's where I'm open.
Hmm.
But meanwhile, he's putting money aside to pay for the session.
Hmm.
And then we do it again. I go off on the road and whatever, and he's putting money aside from the gigs to
Yeah.
all the overhead, but he's putting a little bit aside in the piggy bank
Hmm.
for the next session. And then and I wanted to do it instead of all down in LA. I wanted to do three different rhythm sections that way. So 5 songs in Nashville, 4 songs in Kids in San Jose, and 4 songs in LA.
Okay.
And that's what we did. And so it was pieced together, piece. I was all the way through this rewriting. Even in the studios, like, you know, I'm going to rewrite that. And da, da, da. So it's a process that you just work, trim the fat, work, trim it, so that it comes out. And you find out some words, I might be singing something, it's like the cadence of it, you either got to get it down, or if I change this word, it just tells the same story, but it sings better, you know.
Hmm.
You know, it's hard to sing the word enigma or something. You know, I made that up.
Right.
You know,
Right. But I feel you. I'm with you.
you're an enigma or whatever. You know, that's that word. So you got to have it roll, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
And rappers are great at this. So that's, you know, honing this, whatever, go in and doing it now, Nashville. So I go in, and the drummer's this guy named Jack Bruno.
Sure. I played with Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
God, I
great.
love him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's great.
he's my favorite
He
drummer.
hits the skins too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
he's
he's just, his transitions are just amazing. Like he plays the right fill to
yeah.
take it to the next chord or whatever.
Uh-huh.
You know, he feels it. I'm telling you, I went to Nashville. We did 5 songs in one day. Boom, boom, boom.
Wow.
And, you know, not a lot of rehearsal.
Yeah.
And I have a great guitar player, Alan Hager. He wrote out the charts.
Uh-huh.
And Kevin goes, I really appreciate you bringing the charts, but we don't really need all this. We just need the. And I told Alan, said, just write chords, just the chords
Yeah.
up. But he wrote it all out.
Oh wow. Yeah, they do the numbers here, man.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think they need that, Alan. He goes, well, that's the only way I write. I mean, he literally wrote, looked like Beethoven, you know.
Oh wow, yeah.
And it was like, well, you know, so anyhow, they looked at it and went like, cool, though. They thanked me, and then went and wrote it out in
Yeah.
you know, a chord chart.
Yeah.
And then we played it. A little bit of starts, whatever. I'd say this and whatever, and I say, Kevin, could you start this song? How about doing one of those, you know, like there's a song called "I Don't Do That No More," which is kind of feels like a Delbert McClinton song.
Sure.
I didn't do that on purpose, but it's basically Delbert's band.
Yeah, right.
That's
I was
fine with me as a killer band, man. I mean, these guys are just incredible. Bob Britt, I think his name is, the guitar player. And
Did you have
he's on
George
di-
Marinelli on the record too?
Yeah, who?
George Marinelli?
Oh, yeah, and George is on the record.
Yeah.
He was with Bonnie Raitt for years.
Yeah.
And he wrote the music to Precious Time, and I wrote the bridge with Michael Finnegan.
Okay.
So I I go like this. I'm looking for something. So let's say the bridge to, well, let me go back to "You're Gonna Miss My Sorry Ass." So we talk about it, and McKendry goes, "What do you think if I hire the guy that plays with Brian Setzer for stand-up bass? He's great, Curtis." I said, "Perfect."
Yeah.
You know, and then we went in, and this young man showed up. I think his name is Jesse, and I can't remember his last name. Please forgive me, but they just killed it. You know, I mean, these are studio pros, man, and I knew they would. So for me, patting myself on the back is like I picked the 5 songs that they will do because I can hear them. I've seen them play. And I trust Kevin. I've known Kevin since 2008, and Kevin's brilliant, you know. So it's them really that makes me pull this off because I'm hiring these professionals who I am blessed that go, they like me, and then they go, hey man, they're not charging me, and you know, they're giving me a little "we like you, Curtis" deal.
Yeah.
But that isn't even important. It wouldn't have mattered. But it's just like it's huge validation.
Yeah, you're right.
I can go into a studio and they go, yeah, man, this is fun. We love doing this.
Yeah.
And so you bring it to them. Here's the puzzle. Here's how it goes. I'm looking for this, that. And then that sounds good. That's in the pocket. That isn't. Let's take it again. You know, but really, it's the side guys, man.
Yeah.
You know, all I got to do is step up and perform and just kind of maybe, you know. So I'm telling Jack Bruno, who is you know, could you like accent right here when I sing these words, you know? And he goes, oh yeah. He doesn't even have the words in front of him, but he can feel it. And he went pop, pop, pop.
Yeah.
Just, not every time, but just enough, you know? So it's stuff like that. It's just like, we play Precious Time, which is kind of it's like a Stones-like song or a Bonnie Raitt type song or a John Hyatt type of thing or whatever. It's just pure rock and roll. You know? And then when I went to, I'll tell you how it needed a bridge. And so I went to Michael Finnegan. And Finnegan is one of the best singers on the planet and one of the best Hammond B3 players.
Okay.
He's on Jimi Hendrix records,
Right.
Paul Simon records,
Uh-huh.
Crosby, Stills and Nash, Neil Young, on and on and on.
Okay.
Etta James, boom, boom, boom.
I should know this name. I don't know his name.
Yeah.
Know that.
Michael Finnegan.
Yeah.
When we hang up, I'll send you some stuff.
Right on. This is great.
So these people are great. So I go, this song needs a bridge. He goes, what do you know? We don't have nothing. And I just said, I want power chords like the Who. So it's got a fan, and I'm going, something, and he starts, and it took us, and about 15 minutes later, he went, bing, that's a good launch. And then first we had too many. I said, I just trim it down. That's basically it. And we're sitting there, what about this? And all of a sudden, and he's like a chord machine. He changes it. I liked what he did have, that. So there's my writing thing, but it's coming from, he's like forming it, but I know what I want to hear.
Yeah.
And so, I'm happy to say there's other writers that write like that too. But when you got somebody like Finnegan who doesn't go, motherfucker, whatever, excuse my language.
It's okay.
He's just like, yeah, man, Mike, slow down, man. This,
Yeah.
You're running too many great ideas, because now I have to go, is that, you hit that note right there in that chord. I'm watching, I play a little piano. I can play a wicked blues for you.
Yeah.
A 2/6.
Yeah.
6/2 I don't know what it is, but anyhow, I can do that.
Yeah.
But these guys are brilliant. It's the key is the sidemen and who I've hired.
You have to be sort of a great casting director, right?
That's a good way to put it. And but I can't take the. Am I producing it? Yes. Is it my idea, my concept? Yes. Did I, put this together, whatever? I heard it, like the song "Truth Be Told," which is a Zydeco tune
With Wayne Toops, who's fantastic.
Yeah. So I did
like a force of nature, by the way, that guy.
Oh man, you nailed it. You're hip. He is a force of nature. He's a force of nature.
He is.
I saw him on the blues cruise of Delbert.
Delbert. Yeah, okay. Great.
So I did this song, and the next day he comes up, and I know who he is, and he comes up and he goes, "Who are you, man?" I was like, wow, And then a couple of days later, I go, "Would you want to do a song with me?" So, but a quick story just to mention. When I was living in Eugene, and I was giving you my Eugene stories, the University of Oregon Cultural Forum called me up and said, Clifton Chenier needs a place to stay. And so I'm in Oregon, Eugene, and Clifton Chenier stayed at my house. And he would cook for the band. And the band was Clifton Chenier. And it had Stanley Durrell in it, and Buckwheat Zydeco. So both Buckwheat and Clifton and this band.
So they're making some Cajun food for you like crazy, right?
You nailed it. That was, now I had Clifton Chenier records, and here's the other thing. Clifton Chenier records, on our Hooli stuff, they're good, but you don't get the impact. And I think Chris Scrashwitz or whatever his name is, he wanted just the like, here it is, the raw form of it. But sonically, high fidelity, it is not, and he should have made it that way, because when you see Clifton, it was like the G-forces. I mean, oh my God, there's nothing like a Zydeco band. You can't follow a Zydeco. I don't care if you're James Brown, you're going to have a hard time.
The energy is incredible, isn't it?
It's incredible. Yeah. So anyhow, playing with these guys in Nashville, and then Kid Anderson, so that's kind of, I got to hand the ball over to you, because I hope I'm making sense here.
You're making total sense, and it's funny because I always start my shows with I have a list of some things that I'd like to talk about, and and you could have written the script for me today because it was just everything that I wanted to talk about. You've touched on, which is absolutely fantastic.
All good. I'm
Yeah,
glad.
yeah, all of these wonderful stories. I just wanted to make sure we give due time to this new record, Damage Control, because it's a really great record. It's on Alligator Records. You know, certainly not a bone to pick, but I'm going to say it just because I almost feel like I have to.
Harmonica?
Because yeah, exactly. But I know why you didn't. I know why you didn't play on everything. Huey Lewis said this a couple of weeks ago when I interviewed him. He's like he does the same thing. He's very specific about where he puts harmonica, and it doesn't go in everything. And he was like, this is it's too powerful of an instrument. He's like, you can't put it everywhere. You got to pick and choose where it's going to go.
I like that he used the word powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah, it really is. It's so distinctive, but at the same time, it's kind of like, I was in the Robert Cray band, as you know. The Nighthawks dissolved. I went into Robert Cray, and for me, this will answer a couple of. For me, it was like they wanted Robert Cray, young, black, and gifted, and he is the representation of the new blues that's coming up. Someone that's going to carry the torch further, and I play harmonica. So what am I going to do in this band? Am I going to join the horn section and play horn parts? I already did that with him, and no complaints. But it doesn't really. It's not. Look, do you want a trumpet player or do you want a harmonica player who's playing chromatic and playing trumpet parts? I did this with an alto player in the Robert Cray band, and I made one record with Robert. When the next record came around, they were only interested in Robert, and it's kind of like I'm a front man that plays harmonica. If I played great keyboards and harmonica, but it's such a, as he said, a powerful instrument. But it's a very special. You might as well be playing triangle, and if you're really good at it, it's something I whip out like it's a missile on my jet.
Right.
Like fire. It's an extra weapon I have. And I can play it.
Yeah.
And I'm not somebody that puts it on a rack and blows in and out. And it's kind of, I'm doing cross harp, just playing it in and there. Which has its flavor and its sound itself.
Sure, absolutely.
You can't hear Little Walter on a Bob Dylan record.
No, no, right? It would be out of place. That's totally
It would be out of
very good
place,
point.
but the way, so it fits perfectly.
Yeah.
Or maybe if we first heard Bob Dylan with Little Walter, maybe we'd be used to it. Then we
Another good point. Okay.
but that's it. To me, it's like none of the songs, they all don't call for a guitar solo, and they don't call for a harmonica solo. This one song, "What Did Me In Did Me Well," it's like, my manager said, "You don't have any harmonica, man." And I said, "I got it planned. I know what I want. I know what, that song to me, it's, my wish is to call Stevie Wonder and see if he would play on it."
I mean, but you know what? You play that style very well. Yeah. I mean, I hear that, and when you played it, I was like, yeah, that's some Stevie kind of stuff right there. I dig that.
Yeah, yeah. So
but it's still you.
exactly, and then secondly is what do you phrase? What is how you cut through the groove? Where you place it. So that's why, and it's just chromatic harmonica with a nice microphone. And then the other one is, and I don't like the tone on this. For some reason, the engineer couldn't get what I wanted, and I did everything right. But and that is the fixes in.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It should have a different. I don't like the amplified sound.
Right.
I've got better on other records, and I don't know why.
Where did you
But
get that track?
it'll do. I was like,
Doesn't
it'll
matter.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. It got I mean, when I heard it, I didn't think I don't like the tone on that.
Right, right.
I didn't think that.
But I'm always like, I like that tone better.
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. Well, that's I think part of being an artist. We're always like super self-critical of
Yeah,
ourselves, and
true.
Yeah.
But that's it. It doesn't serve the song. Can you imagine it on "You're Gonna Miss My Sorry Ass," which is like a, all of a
Right.
sudden there's a harp sitting there,
Yeah.
not on a no, not on a rockabilly song,
Yeah.
which and I could have put it on "I Don't Do That No More," the Delbert McClinton kind of thing,
Hmm.
but it doesn't really need it. I like Kevin McKendry, and once again, I'm really into the piano. So
Some
and
great
then
piano and organ on this record, that's for sure.
some of the songs don't even need. Sorry for interrupting.
That's
Sorry.
okay. No, no sweat.
Some of them don't even have a solo. I don't think they all need a solo. You got a
Hmm.
story, here it is. And so one of them would be Damage Control,
Hmm.
which to me is kind of a Dr. John,
Totally.
Horace Silver kind of.
Yeah. I
And,
got that too. Yeah, for sure, man.
and, um, and then there is "Oh for the Cry I," which is "Oh for the Cry,"
Uh-huh.
which
Right.
is basically me coming with. I have a snap temper sometimes, and really disheartens me, makes me, you know,
Yeah.
really question what the hell am I doing. But so that's what that is. And my folks always used to say, "Oh, for the cry I," which means, for Christ's sakes or something, or
Get over yourself.
get over yourself. Go for the cry I.
Yeah.
My dad would go, "Curtis, have you dumped the garbage?" "Not yet." "Would you like?" "Go for the cry I. Go dump the garbage, Jesus." Something like that. But
I love it.
but what it is just, "Oh, for the, you better treat your woman right and quit with the bad temper."
Hmm.
And that to me kind of, I just set out to write, and then it starts to develop. And then I know that sounds like this. And then
Uh-huh.
most of those songs just come and they form and whatever. And, they kind of start to form. And I'll borrow from this and borrow from this and borrow from this.
I know.
So, "Oh for the Cry I" started with a young a girl here in Portland who's brilliant, and she just started playing. She'd never heard of Alan Toussaint, and I went, "That kind of sounds like," I just had a New Orleans feel.
Mm.
It kind of sound Alan Toussaint. I didn't set out to write it, but that's hip, and the reason I think it's hip is because it kind of sounds like what he would do.
Yeah.
Then I turn it into my own thing. But she's playing, and that's what it is. Now, what do you write about? And I just came up with "Oh for the Cry I." I just started singing that. Where did I get that from? Oh, that's my grandmother. That's my mom, and.
Uh-huh.
So made a story of that. Basically, me being, your tough temper son will drive the women away.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, by hook or by crook,
Hmm.
that's what it is. Does it need a harmonica solo? Does it need? No, it doesn't.
Well, you know what? I mean, if people want to listen to you play harmonica, you've played a lot on other records. The 2018 record, Rough Cut, lots of
That,
great harmonica on that record.
there is a lot of harp, and that was on purpose. That I want to make.
Yeah.
And the guitar player is amazing. So
Yeah.
two reasons. Basically, him. This guy is. This is Alan Hager's from here in Portland, and when he was a teenager, he called up Sunhouse to wish him happy birthday. You know.
Wow.
And then, so
Yeah.
he went to the Portland Library, checked out a phone book for Rochester, New York, because he read that Sunhouse lived in Rochester, New York. And so, it gave his address on the back of the record. And so he went to the library, checked out a Rochester, New York phone. I guess you can do that.
I guess.
Looks up, there's Eddie House,
Right.
called him up to wish him happy birthday. And
Wow.
then, yeah, so he was into this as a kid,
Uh-huh.
and started playing guitar, I think, when he was 13. So at the age of 17, he calls up Sunhouse. That's who he is. And he's an excellent musician. Anyhow, long story short, he's the reason I really wanted to show him off. Nobody's ever heard of him. Nobody. I thought I had a little power to do this because I've seen them all. You know, there's a guy in New Orleans used to live in Oregon named John Full, who's a great Piedmont style guitar player as well and stuff. Nonetheless, and then secondly, I would be able to, because I play with Alan all the time. It's just the two of us. So then I really get to play a lot of harmonica.
Yeah. Well, I loved that record too. It's fantastic. And you guys toured Europe together, right?
Yeah, he came over with me, but we were playing with a full band. And then we'd break the band and they all leave, and Alan and I would do, you know, I Want My Dog to Live Longer
Yeah.
and maybe a Sun House tune or a Skip James song or something.
Yeah.
I can't sing like Skip James, so let me change that. So we do a Sun House tune and Muddy, do a Muddy
Buddy.
tune, or
Yeah.
Elmore James.
I
So
love Elmore James.
yeah, yeah. We do Too Young to Know.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
Well, so once we all get vaccinated, I'm interested to know what's next for you. Are you going to go out and try to support this record? Because I feel like you sort of got kind of got gypped here. You know, usually we get to put out a record and then go out and support it, right, or sell it, right? we hit the road and we promote it. And with COVID, you really weren't allowed to do that. So, any plans to do that?
God, wouldn't that be great? You
Yeah.
know what's bothering all of us, and I'm going to put is because we don't know the future.
Mm-hmm.
Before COVID, you had an idea of what maybe the month will play out or the next week or what you're going to do. You got a dinner date to do. You're supposed to get together with so and so and do a session. You're supposed to go whatever, and you're going to, oh, I got a great little tour going on. We're going to go over to the Midwest or whatever, you know, da 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 da. That's what's really bothering us, and we're sick of it. And
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's going to be interesting. You know, is the vaccine going to work? Is it this? Is it going to change your DNA? Da da da. All. And here's the thing. This is away from music, so we'll get back to it. But this thing right here, this internet and Facebook, has divided this country. And I don't do Facebook. I never have, and for various reasons. And I'll give you one. It was just basically, it wasn't that I was like, you know, this is going to cause trouble, but kind of. I was kind of like, everybody's got their own voice and they can do it in the comfort of their own house. And it's divided this country. And then who would have thought that they'd take our information and sell it? So you're sitting there going, I like this kind of stuff. I like these shoes. I like this dress. I like this music. I like this, this, and this. I'm looking for these parts. And then they put it all together and algorithms from this. And all of a sudden, before the computer, they were thinking about, you know, what the charts are and who buys this and what the age, you know. It's like your what is it, your age and all this. It's just like demographics.
Sure.
Demographics, you know, Chris, you only appeal to people who are this old.
Mm-hmm.
You don't appeal to people this age. What do you mean you don't? Just play it.
Mm-hmm.
Get it out there and find out.
Yeah.
Well, according to our mathematicians, we're people, you know.
Yeah.
So they made us into numbers. To be real quick, man, it's the internet. And you're interviewing me. I've never had this happen before, and I'm getting lots of interviews, and people like the record, and I'm dying to play this record. And
Yeah.
I've only played 5 songs from it so far, and that is to hopefully I am making this record in Americana instead of
Okay.
blues
That's a
and
great
Americana.
market, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's basically what it is, you know.
Yeah, sure. And but yet you're on Alligator Records, you know,
Yeah.
it's real tried and true historically blues.
Good for them. I mean, they're
Yeah.
and but you know, it's all that. You know, blues is Americana.
That's
So,
right.
you know, da 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 da. So, but there's my little political speech about the internet and whatever it is. Do you know who Peter Parker is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's right.
Like Spider-Man's dad said to Peter Parker was, with a incredible power comes, you know, incredible responsibilities, you know. And we got too much power. We're we have all of this amazing technology, and we as a species just can't handle it. We're just the very basic things, you know, jealousy and control and this and this and this. It's just turned into, and they've taken this thing and made us into a product ourselves, you know. This it's stunning what it's done, you know, and nobody knows what to believe. Nobody knows what's the truth. I literally argue with people who I never argued with. Well, I don't argue, tell you the truth. I just walk away. You know,
Right.
I take it one day at a time. But I'm seeing friends. I'm never speaking to him again because he voted for so and so, or he did.
Yeah.
There should be a time when we could agree to disagree. And one of the problems is this: is
Yeah.
the computer. It's huge in the problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, and those that are taking power remind me of Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan and Carnegie, and you know, back in the Tammany Hall days, corporations are taking over.
Yeah.
And that sounds like I'm a left-wing guy. I'm not. You know, I don't care. You know, you know, dinner's on the table. Enjoy yourself. Treat each other with civility.
Right.
So that's what I am. That's what I deal with. And
Yeah.
music is the most positive thing that we do as a species, I think.
It speaks all languages.
Yeah, yes.
Just breaks
Well, you
barriers.
know, I can't understand bird, and I don't know what whales are singing, and they're not selling any records, or it's not. Their message is between them and their world, you know.
Right.
And so, sorry I went there, but they're a species too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And for us, you know, music is such a strong connection. So I can't wait to play, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, Curtis, thank you so much for this time, man. It's just been a real pleasure of mine to have you on the show. So many great harp players out there and so many great singers that want to hear from you, and for you to share all these stories was just amazing. So thank you.
Well, that warms my heart. I mean, I have no idea, man. You know, like I said, I always think the grass is greener on the other side. Nashville is full of harmonica players. There's so many great harmonica players out there. But, you know,
True. There are a lot, but
I
you're one of them.
steal from every single one of them.
So do I. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what we should do. We should be sharing. Well, not stealing, sharing maybe.
Right. Well, you know, you can't, you know, when it comes down to it, that moment when you have to perform, you could practice a riff over and over and over. And now here it comes. You can't think it. You can't think it. You can't. It's just gotta be there. And it's never gonna come exactly like that person. It takes a long time to refine it down to, you know, that kind of stuff. So thank you for having me. Thank you for pushing the records. Please tell your friends about it so that I could become rich and famous and take you out to dinner and brag.
I love it. I want to go to dinner with you for that brag session. It's well deserved, my friend.
Okay.
Right on. Well, peace and love to you, Curtis. Thank you so much. Stay healthy out there in Oregon, and we'll see you soon, I hope.
Give Nashville my love.
I will. Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.